Hello, welcome to another episode of the GNPS. Mina, Gu General Lunjinela, and I'm out here with my next guest. As always, we bring you nothing but dope content. Sitting across me is Ruth Mthembu from right here in Durban. How you doing, girl?
I'm good. How are you?
It's awesome to sit across somebody who's spoke at the highest levels that one can speak on on this planet. But let me not just take that away from you. I'll let you tell people who's Ruth and what is Ruth about. What does Ruth represent?
Cool.
So let's just start from the beginning with the basics. Who is Ruth?
That is a very difficult question. Ruth is just a simple girl from Durban who loves coffee. I think I love coffee more than anything in the world. And thank you.
Hey, I've been trying to organize like a sponsor, coffee sponsor, so that when I have guests here, we can
there'll be some coffee.
Yeah,
but then that means you'll need to invite me again so that I can.
Obviously, what do you think this is? This is it's not a one-stop shop. So if you've been here, you become family. So next time I won't have to hit you up. So
I'll just rock up.
Yeah, you just hit me up and be like, hey, I want to come through. And
yes. So I absolutely love coffee. I love chicken licking wings.
Hey,
so I'm a wings girl.
Chicken licking.
Yes, we need to call them up too. And then just over and above that, I love to read, love laughing, and as I said at the beginning, I'm just a simple girl. I would describe myself as how do they call it? I'm both an introvert and an extrovert, if that even exists. But
how does one accomplish that? Like,
I don't know. I guess it's just knowing like when to be quiet and also when to be loud. I can be both. I'm not one or the other. I'm just.
Yeah. I think maybe I could be both. Yeah. Because the outdoors, I enjoy them on my, mostly with the training. So I enjoy the outdoors so much that I prefer training outside than at the gym. Because there's something about just being out in the open space.
Exactly. And also
connecting
not just being around too many people.
Exactly. Instead of getting the...
Exactly.
I get the...
much better sound. Much better
and
sound.
the wind.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you said you grew up here in Durban. How was life growing up as a young girl in Durban? I mean, I'm Kulemakaya, so I'm always curious to find out what do you guys get up to here on this side of the world?
So growing up, I'm the only child. So I grew up being the only child at home, and it was quite difficult because my dad's a pastor. So we always had different people coming over. There was always somebody staying with us. My parents just have very big hearts. So sometimes I felt like I had to share my parents. So that was very hard at times. But I got used to it, and I have a very close relationship with my parents and just had beautiful friendships growing up. So always used to hang out with these two girls, Ntokoza and Manele, who are still my best friends to this day. In fact,
hope they're watching and they subscribed already by this point.
I gave them a heads up. So we're celebrating 19 years of friendship this year.
Wow, that's
beautiful. So grew up with them. There was nothing super crazy about my childhood, except when I was in grade 9. I organized a house party when my parents were away. Hey!
What motivated you to do that?
My cousin and I just decided, okay, look, my parents are going away. Let's have a get together. It was meant to be a get together, and the number just increased every day. We were looking at the list, and I was like, who are these people? And my cousin was like, no, just add 5 more. And then I would add 5 more. And before you knew it, we had I think it was like maybe 70 people, if I'm not mistaken. Could be less, could be more, but we were 15 at the time. So, I got into the biggest trouble. I'll never forget the beating. I'll never forget the beating I got from my parents, but I've survived to tell the story. I had a rebel phase, but then I kind of got out of that rebel phase and was a normal child.
I can imagine. Like I remember the beatings my mom used to give me as well. It's like, but now the sad part or the hardest part with me is that I was stuck with her. That was before my sister got was conceived and actually given birth to by her. So like before that it was just me and her for a good 10 years.
So you got it all.
So everything. I knew that anything that I do bad, it's going down.
Exactly, it's coming. Yeah, that's exactly what I'd gone through, and it's not like I had a like 5 or 6 other siblings to look to. It was always Ruth's fault. Something went wrong in the house, it was my fault. So
I can imagine. What high school did you go to? Which high school did you go to?
So I went to Hillcrest High. In Hillcrest, not a lot of people know where that is. That's fine. I'm okay with not a lot of people knowing.
Everybody knows where Hillcrest is. That's like the England of Durban.
But I went to Hillcrest High. I loved that school. Still do love that school a lot. That's where I really got some good, solid friendships. Most of them I'm friends with to this day. That's the high school I went to.
No, awesome. And like now after high school, what do you do?
So after high school, I went to Howard College, studied an LLB degree. So I finished my law degree in 2014, end of 2014. And I decided I didn't want to be an attorney.
Why?
In fact, in my final year is when I made the decision. I just said to myself, I'm not really keen on, I don't see myself dealing with all of this, and there must be something bigger. This is not to say that lawyers aren't dealing with big things, but I just felt that I could use that degree elsewhere. So after I finished studying, I started working at a children's home, and I did fundraising for them and marketing. And then that's just where my love for all things social justice and restoration grew. And I followed that path for many, many years, and now I work with the oceans.
Wait. So you left at the final year, or you completed and then decided?
So I completed my degree, got my LLB degree, and then branched off into something completely different.
So now in your newfound passions now, doesn't law come into play somehow?
It does. It really does. A lot of people think it doesn't, and they think some people have said to me they feel it was a waste. Why did I study that if I'm not practicing? But I use law every single day. In fact, every human uses law every single day. So in the jobs that I was in at the children's home, in dealing with all the policies and laws relating to children, the Children's Act, and all of these things, it really helped. I had insight when I started, and I understood the difficulties, I understood the challenges relating to children and children's homes and social workers and all of those things. So that really helped. I think it kind of gave me a good foundation as I started.
And now, so you've graduated. I imagine your parents are ecstatic about that, because we just got a lawyer in the family.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden you don't want to do that. How do they take it?
I remember towards the end of high school, my parents were asking me, so Ruth, what are you going to study? At first I was like, I want to do political science because it just sounded cool. And then I said, oh, actually I'll do law. And my parents were excited. And then I remember having a chat with my dad in final year, and I said to him, I don't really see myself being a lawyer. And I remember my parents are very supportive, shame, but I remember I saw in my dad's eyes like this look of like, are you mad? You know, like one of those like,
is this child right?
Is this child okay? But no, my parents were very supportive. I just remember Dad, he always, even to this day, has always said to me, it's your life. As long as what you're doing, you are happy with it, you're able to support yourself, you know, we will be here to support you. So I was very fortunate to have supportive parents from the get-go, and they've been supportive even to this day. And when they saw that I really was serious about not being a lawyer, then they quickly adjusted. They've never really said to me, oh, why don't you go back? And, you know, it's never been a topic. They're just happy with wherever I go.
Now, where does the motivation, okay, now you've completed this degree, but you choose, hey, with my life, I want to look into helping people, for instance. So you go to a children's home and you decide to go and partake in whatever is happening in the space. And obviously you find how you can make a change or contribute to the whole space. Why specifically like children's home? Or was it the easiest thing, or was it something that had been coming a long time?
So I would say it's both, because obviously when you finish studying, you want to get into a job ASAP. That's your plan. After you finish studying, you need to get into a job. And since I'd made the decision that I'm not going to practice law, I felt it was going to be harder to find a job. But I was already at that point volunteering at Iketelo Children's Village. So I was volunteering there in high school, volunteering there during my studies. So I remember speaking to Nick Addison, who was running the Children's Village at the time. And he said, oh, please join our team. I started volunteering there. And then within months, he said, no, we want to take you on as a permanent staff member. And my love for kids has always been there, but it's not just about kids. It's my love for just restoration, just actually being a person who's able to help restore, whether it's a child, whether it's an older person. It just so happened I was working with kids anyway, and then I naturally gravitated towards that. But it could have been any place. But that Iketelo really has a special place in my heart, and I just started working there and doing fundraising and never looked back.
So what are some of the programs that you guys were facilitating, or that they're still facilitating at Iketelo Children's Home?
So the Children's Village is, they take kids, if I can remember correctly, they take kids from as young as 0. We've even had children there who've come in, the youngest was at 2 days old. And
Wait, before you go too far, how does a 2-day child,
it's so
a 2-day-old child ends up in a children's village?
It is. It's heartbreaking. You know, you kind of hear these stories in the news about, you know, a child being found in the rubbish, or a child being abandoned, and you feel a bit removed because it's far. But then when you're actually working there and you see it every day, it's crazy. People are going through things out there, and sometimes I can imagine as a young mom, maybe you just don't have the means to look after your child. And at that time, it was the best decision you could have made. I have a lot of questions about that, because there's some ways in which we found children that it just doesn't make sense. You know, couldn't you have dropped it at the hospital, or, you know, but it happens. You have children, newborn babies that are just left. And that's where the social workers come in, and they assign children to different homes. So at that home, we were taking children from as young as that age all the way to the age of 18. And these were orphaned and vulnerable children, not all of them being orphans, but some just being removed from home because of the environment. It was not safe. Some were victims of intense abuse. And so we have children from all sorts of backgrounds who were placed in the village, but it's amazing the care that they have received over the years, and to see them as shining stars today, you'd never think that was the case.
So when these kids come in, so they can stay there for how long?
So a lot of the cases are long-term, but sometimes we have had cases of kids who are there short-term. So maybe 6 months, maybe a year. But there have been children who've been at the village from the beginning of their lives, right up until 18. And what I love about Ikethelo is they don't just stop when you're 18, because we understand that you can't just look after a child until 18 and then they're supposed to go out into the world. I still needed my parents a lot after 18. So
Say that again.
so you know, the program is set in such a way that they've had amazing partners there that have partnered with the kids and have supported them from matric into university or into the working environment, right up until they're able to really look after themselves. So I would say 18 on paper, but they've looked after the kids until they're at a age where they're okay.
Now, you spoke about partners that come in. Obviously, I think that goes towards funding the kids in terms of school and all those kind of things. Do you guys have like a fair share or enough number of partners, or it could never be enough?
So when I worked there, it was, you know, sometimes you feel, because I was doing fundraising, so sometimes you feel like it's just a hole, like it's never enough, because there are always expenses coming up. These are children. Every child is expensive, you know, and we all have different needs, and to keep the place going and to support even the staff members, you just always need funding. And what a lot of these places get from government is not enough to sustain them. So we had to make an extra effort to partner with national and international organizations and individuals. And in most cases, it has really gotten the village to a good state and has supported it. But obviously, it depends on what people are going through. Like now with COVID, I can only imagine it's affected donations, because people have lost their jobs and they can't support like they used to. So that's been a difficult thing, but I don't know, just to see how the support has been happening over the years, I guess that it's been going quite well. The village is still standing. So.
Yeah. Now, okay, obviously we've touched on law, and okay, just to now tie up these two things. You working at the children's homes, how much has your law background helped you while you're in that space?
It's helped me a lot. At the age of 23, the former CEO from the village, he had left at that point, and then we had a younger team, and I was part of that younger executive team. At the age of 23, I was put into a senior executive position, and it was the most scariest thing ever. I think growing up, you always see managers and businesses, and you think, wow, like one day.
I want to be that guy.
Yes, I want to be that guy. And then you get there and you realize it's really not as amazing as you thought it was. And I really appreciate having my law degree, because it really has helped me in those spaces to kind of understand how to navigate things. There were times where things were so difficult, we had to start with retrenchments and then having to understand labor laws and all of that. It really it really helped. It worked in my favor at the time, but it was the most stressful time. The most stressful time. I think I also missed out on a chunk of just being young and enjoying life, because I was now put in a position where I had to look after a team, and no one can prepare you for that. It was, it was madness.
I can imagine it's intense. So now, how do we get to conservation, oceans? Now you're not only conserving human life, you also conserving natural life, which is wildlife. How does that come about?
So when I left Ikethelo, I joined Live Village, which is also another very well-known children's village. In fact, they've got villages all over South Africa now. So I joined their team, and I was doing marketing and operations and fundraising there. And then I remember I went through a nervous breakdown, April 2018. I remember this so clearly. And I was just really emotionally tired, and in dealing with a lot of trauma related to kids and all of that, you always on the go, and you never really stop and check if you're okay, if you're still in the position to help the very kids you came there for. And in April 2018, I realized I was not okay, and went through a very deep depression at that point. And I realized that if I didn't leave or find a different path in life, it was really going to affect me. And so I started looking for a job, and then I came across Wild Oceans, and I was thinking, okay, Wild Oceans, now this is environmental stuff. I haven't really worked with environmental conservation, but you know what? Let me give it a try. And in June 2018, I got the job after a great interview. And I remember even when I was interviewed, they'd asked me, how are you going to make the jump from working with people to now working with the ocean? And I remember saying in that interview that you can't help vulnerable people and set them up for greatness if they don't have a good environment to go into. Then you've kind of lost the battle already. And the two are interlinked. Our oceans, our land, everything must be in a good condition. And also you can't just focus on ocean and land. You've also got to focus on people, because what's the point of healing the land and healing the ocean if if the people aren't okay. So I said to them, I was in a perfect position actually to make that transition, because it was about time we actively married the two instead of looking at them as something different. So I found it to be a very natural jump. It didn't feel like I'm jumping from one thing to to something else. It was a beautiful transition, and every day I'm in this environment of working in conservation. I see the similarities every single day. It's been a beautiful journey.
Now just to get us into the picture, so maybe I know we might not understand it the way you do, but just for the general public or the normal man out there on the street, how can you simplify the work that you, like in terms of explaining it, the work that you guys do?
Okay. So Wild Oceans it's a program of the Wild Trust, and the Wild Oceans program deals with all things related to the ocean. So whether it's we do capacity building, so we actually help train young people in this field. So what we saw a couple of years ago is that we were having marine biologists, young, informed, amazing, clever people finish off their marine biology degree, but they had never been to sea. So one of the programs we have, Ocean Stewards, it does capacity building and helping young people, taking them out to sea on expeditions. So that's one of the things that we do. We also do a lot of research work, wanting to find out what's in the ocean, going to find out about different species, collecting data, and just using that to educate the public about what's in there. And then the other leg of it is advocacy and awareness. So we have a lot of campaigns running to educate the general public about why we need to protect this beautiful ocean that we have.
This is I did my own research. Okay, I'm also somebody that's I'd like to consider myself as somebody who worries about the environment, so to say. Obviously, if you deny climate change, well, tough. I'm sorry. You can switch this right off and go watch another video or listen to something else. But I do believe in climate change purely because obviously you see the weather change, like the different temperatures that we having now as to back then, and how late sometimes the season comes, and sometimes we see flooding and all those kind of things. So purely like my major push behind getting you here is so that you could be the person that could speak on that, like and actually echo the message and let people know that, especially people of skin color,
of course,
science is even when it's unnecessary. So all I need you to do is just, for the people there, and you can break it down in Zulu, and just so that people can understand what is climate change and how it could affect South Africa specifically, because on this end, so that it's more direct and it hits home.
Okay. So.
No pressure.
Climate change. Okay, I'm going to try and break this down as easily as I can. I don't like to use words like climate change and all these big words because sometimes they can throw people off. We don't know what does that even mean, and it becomes a term that's too difficult to understand. So I'm just going to talk about the ocean because everyone relates to it, everyone understands it, and I always see the ocean as the world's biggest unifier. It's what unifies everybody around the world. You might think you don't need the ocean, but everything we wear.
I think now today we realize that we need the ocean.
Hey, we do.
Since President said.
Exactly. But everything we use, everything, I mean, this mic, our gadgets, everything is transported to us mostly through the ocean. Over 3 billion people use the ocean for food. We don't have to, our imaginations don't even have to stretch far. We know that we need the ocean. But the problem is we don't understand. We think it's a thing that's always going to be there. It was there before we were born. Our parents saw it there. It was there. It was always there. But the issue is we're getting to a point where the ocean is getting stressed. Like, when you're a human and you get stressed and sick and tired. Let me give you an example with COVID, because everyone knows what's happening with COVID.
Yeah.
If you are a healthy person with a healthy system, you have the ability to fight off COVID. You can. If you're healthy enough, your immune system is strong enough to fight it. But if you have underlying conditions, like they say, if you have underlying conditions, or maybe you are above 60 years of age, so you're more vulnerable, then your body is weaker. And if COVID comes along and gets into your system, you're not strong enough to fight it. Absolutely. That's exactly the state our ocean is in right now. Like, over the years, because we haven't been taking care of it, there's been too much pollution and all of that stuff. It's now at a point where it cannot fight the threats it faces. So just like a human being whose immune system is not strong enough. And that's the state our ocean is in. Now, the threats to our ocean and to the world, one of those things is climate change. And climate change is just a long-term change in weather patterns. And everyone knows this. In winter, it wasn't that cold. But then when we were supposed to be getting into spring, it was cold. And then, I know in Durban we a bit overboard. One drop of rain, we all in coats and boots, and I'm one of those people. No, I understand that. But every single person has seen how the weather has just been very weird lately. Storms. We're having tornadoes in South Africa.
Imagine.
We only used to see tornadoes in movies, or we hear about it in the news when it happens in the US, but now it's happening here. We also have tremors, earthquakes, as some would put it. Sometimes you're just sitting and next thing you feel, okay, the ground is shaking a little bit. These are all effects of climate change. This is what is happening to our world because we're no longer looking after it. That is as frank as I can put it. We are not looking after our environment. We are not looking after our ocean. And now this is nature basically vomiting back to us what we've been throwing at it over the years.
I was listening to a podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's an astrophysicist. So they also focus on heavy science. Obviously, that brings in climate change. Because purely the effects of that is determined. The effects of climate change are measured through science.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what they were saying is that another thing that global warming or carbon emissions that they're causing. One of the effects is that we're starting to see sea level rises. Which then means that some of the ice in the North Pole is starting to melt, so that causes a rise in the seawater levels. So that's another thing that we could start seeing, where water starts crashing onto land and doesn't stay at the beach.
Exactly.
Then you won't want to go to the beach on that day.
You won't. I mean, we've had very terrible storms in Durban over the past few years, and if you go to the beach the day after a bad storm, I'm talking about one of those bad ones where unfortunately we've lost lives. Those type of storms, if you go to the beach the next day, you won't even believe what you're seeing. The rubbish that gets washed up, and you would think someone came the night before and just dumped it there. But that's all stuff that we have disposed of. It's gone into the ocean. There's been a storm, and the water just brings everything back to us, And I feel like not a lot of people understand how our actions, even if you don't live near the ocean, but we don't understand how our actions are actually affecting the ocean. So it's a long task to try and educate one another about how we can look after this beautiful life-giving ocean of ours.
Well, we've highlighted the bad things that we do. But now, how do I, as a general person on the street, how do I contribute towards conserving this beautiful body of water that we have here, even though we can't drink it? But somehow it still has an effect on the life that we live here. How do I make sure that that is preserved and that is well taken care of, and we reverse all these negative effects that we've caused to the ocean?
So it's very simple. You can start wherever you are. You don't have to live near the beach. Even those in Joburg, yes, those in Joburg too. You can start with small decisions, like just putting rubbish in a bin. I know that sounds so stupid, but you'd be amazed when you actually see people just, the bin could be like five meters away from, or 1 meter away, but no, it's too much of an inconvenience. Let me just drop it here. Literally, all you have to do is put your rubbish in the bin. That's the first thing. It's the easiest step. And I know some people might think, oh, but we know we need to throw it in the bin. But you'd be amazed to find how many people.
My car is so dirty because every time let's say I could be, I take a slip from the shop. And when I get to the car, I'm like, I don't read this. And I think about just opening my window and checking it out. And I just see all those videos that I've watched online where they find plastic bottles in the middle of the ocean.
We've got plastic islands. It's not even just like it's islands of waste. That's why it's so important to just put it in the bin, because what happens is if you just throw it, rain comes, it gets washed into a gutter that goes into a drain, it goes into a stream, into the river, and into the ocean. So really just throw your things away. Over and above that, just be conscious even when you go to the store, just maybe reuse your plastic bag. If you can, if it's possible, don't use plastic bags, use a reusable bag, But the thing is with us as humans, we like to do what's called a crime of convenience, where it's like, if it's not convenient for me, I don't want to do it. So if you forget your bag at home, it's like, oh, I'll just get a plastic at the store, it's fine. And then you just dispose of it like it's nothing, but we don't realize that disposing of rubbish like that is what has gotten us into this position. So, reusable bags. If you're a coffee lover, reusable cup instead of those takeaway cups. Because they just cause a lot of damage in the environment. Take part in cleanups at your local beaches, or
Parks.
in parks, on your streets, in your complex, wherever you live, there's rubbish. That's a way that you can do your part. The bigger things that are a bit beyond us is what government's supposed to do, which is to make sure that our oceans are protected. But that's at a policy level, and that's...
Then I wanna get into that. If you do know anything about those policies, do we have policies that see to the fact that we are actually, doing something towards, remedying the whole situation as far as wildlife conservation is concerned?
So I'll take us a step back. The oceans that surround a country, so to a certain level or a certain distance, that country is responsible for the waters around it. So in South Africa, we've got more than one ocean that surrounds us, the Indian Ocean. And so our laws, we have laws that, first of all, in the Constitution, it says everybody has a right to a clean and healthy environment. But government has a responsibility to make sure we have a good environment. So before 2018, we only had 0.4% of our oceans around South Africa protected. That's actually very scary, because that meant that about 90, this is where my maths...
You said 0.4?
0.4. So 99.6. Yes, 99.6 was not protected. So
I could just go dump there and do my illegal fishing.
And government would lease certain parts of the ocean to miners to mining, because there's oil and gas mining that can happen. And I know that government loves to say, oh, but that's good because it will create job. If we find that we can do mining there, we can create more jobs in South Africa. But what we don't understand is that a lot of that oil and gas mining is specialized, and most of the time it needs people who have got a certain skill set, a lot of them from overseas, to come and do that. So who it's creating jobs for, it's not for South Africans. So
definitely it's not for us.
Exactly.
Because we don't have the qualifications or the knowledge or the know-how to do all those things.
So it's very scary, which also means that even the sea creatures inside were vulnerable to whatever dangers. So thankfully, in end of 2018, government declared 5% marine protection. So it's a slow move, but we moved. And then they said in 2020 we were going to get 10% marine protection.
I guess they just forgot about that, and we were worried about COVID.
We've been trying to remind them. But listen, protecting the ocean means protecting lives. As I said at the beginning, it's a interlinked thing. So we can't forget about the ocean and just focus on human life, because the human life needs the ocean So every second breath, by the way, we take comes from the ocean. So the ocean dies, we are
Yeah. I
we're
mean,
dead.
we did basically. Like, so now, obviously, we're at a point where obviously we see that this is not a priority. It's not something that's of an urgency as far as like government's concerned. Somebody else might say, why are these people even talking about the ocean when we have a serious numbers of unemployment and wow, and all those things. So for me, it's just like I'm worried. I'm somebody who worries about the future. Obviously, the nows, I'm here, and obviously I'm participating.
Exactly.
But also, we need to look forward to the future. And would you say, based on the work that you do, is there any positivity that's gonna come or positive change that could be gained out of people, obviously, lending a hand to the organization that you work with or you work for, in terms of pushing this narrative and prioritizing conservation of our oceans and the whole wildlife?
It's very hectic because if I'm being honest, and I'm speaking on this personally, I think the root of why we are not moving forward with ocean protection, why a lot of bad things happen in the world in general, is just because of the human heart. Like, us as humans, we are our own worst enemies. That is the truth of the matter. We are our own worst enemies. And I think that when you see what's happening in the ocean and all the effects that are happening with it, it is just a reflection of the way we treat each other. Like if you have a healthy environment, it's actually a good reflection of how we treat each other. But I think the root cause of this is just human selfishness and greed. I don't personally know why we have not made an effort to protect more of the ocean. But things have always changed with pressure. You know, change has always come with pressure. We've seen we've seen that with our own country, for example, in 1994. Because of all the pressure, things started to change. Yes, it's not probably where we want it to be 100%, but things moved in the right direction. And it's the same with ocean protection. Global wisdom says we should protect 30% of the ocean by 2030. South Africa is sitting on 5% now. I think if we keep pushing and applying pressure and having more young, informed people, which we do have, there will be breakthrough. I honestly feel that there will be, because I've noticed there's more young people speaking out now on matters, and not just having an opinion for the sake of having an opinion, but an educated opinion, you know, one that drives people to think, okay, we actually need change. And all these governmental organizations and policymakers are wanting young people amongst them when making the decisions. So now we actually have a role. I think we have a role to play now.
Awesome. That's good to hear. And speaking about pressure, I'm here to put that pressure. You know, because like, you know, it's good to have people like you in our society speaking up on these things. And obviously then if we could just echo that message, because, you know, speaking about future leaders, you know, amongst our peers or people that are younger than you and I, you know, it's imperative that we have this futuristic method of thinking in terms of the policies that we apply to our country.
Yeah.
Like we cannot rest and only 5% of the waters that surround us is protected. That's concerning. Especially in the times that we live in, where there's also human trafficking that could happen via the ocean. And if only 5% of those waters are protected, then it's a concern. So we as the citizens need to make government make that a priority.
Exactly.
And in also doing that, it's like we are working towards something that we need, and that's going to sustain life on this land. And also that means that if we focus attention on it, we drive funds towards it. That means we create jobs. See,
Ta-da! Government.
So we don't have marine biologists who are sitting at home.
Exactly.
And they don't get to interact with our waters, the waters of the same land that they are from. We own those waters. So we should be dedicating some funds into funding those things.
Exactly. And also not just think of ourselves and what we need now. And look, it's good to think about yourself and your needs and everything. But the amazing thing about the ocean is that it doesn't belong to any of us. We've been entrusted to look after it, but our children and our children's children will need to enjoy it, look after it, get food from it. And so if our actions now are not helping the ocean to be sustainable, then our kids won't have anything. I think that's where the mind shift needs to happen. That do I want good for the generation that's to come? And if your answer is yes, then you should be doing everything in your power to make sure that happens, not just looking out for number one, but look out for those who are yet to be born as well. They need an ocean tomorrow.
And I think this method of thinking about just this generation, it's purely because of the previous generations, the time that they lived in. It's always been a struggle, like an active physical struggle of just staying alive and just maintaining your livelihood. True. Physically, having to engage in physical warfare. But now we don't live in those times, so that kind of thinking towards those kind of actions is actually redundant in these times, because you can't gonna get on a ship and go to England, and when you get there you start killing everyone.
Exactly.
And taking everything that they own. So
exactly.
We don't live in those times. Now that we live in times of laws and rules and ideas.
And as young people, we need to shape the future that we want. We can't be looking to someone to shape that for us. We always manifesting. Every time. So we are manifesting I don't know until when, but every day we are manifesting. Well, let's make it a reality. If we want a certain type of future for ourselves, let's go ahead and do it, and instead of just thinking it's going to automatically come, let's, come together and make sure that happens, and think about others for a change. True. Not ourselves.
You recently spoke at a global event that was held online. Okay, like I said, I don't want to steal. So just, this is for anyone who has swang. You'll hear it again.
We'll hear it again.
Or if you heard, but I was now is that opportunity so that they can hear properly what it was that you were sharing with the rest of the world on the talk that you were part of.
So I was very privileged to talk at the recent UN climate dialogues, and in fact 2020 was really deemed the super year for all things ocean related. There were many ocean conferences that were meant to take place this year. A lot of policy shifting. There goes
traveling for you.
Hey. But I kind of in a way think that if COVID didn't happen, like if we didn't have the lockdowns and all of this, I wonder if I was going to go to these conferences. I don't know. There's something that got unlocked during this year where people were given different opportunities because we could talk to each other through a computer instead of having to physically be there, because these things cost money. So this was a costless way of being involved in something big. So I spoke at the UN climate dialogues, and all they wanted to know from us was what we have done in South Africa as the youth to drive change. And we really do have a massive story from going from 0.4% protection to 5%, and seeing how young people were part of that movement. It's really, really massive. So they didn't want to hear about what we still need to do, because that's what these conferences do every year. We talk about what needs to be done, what laws need to be made, but they just wanted to hear how a group of young people got together and decided that, hey, we need to look after our oceans. What can we do? They just wanted to hear that story. So on the 3rd of December, I spoke about the Youth for MPAs, which is a movement, which is a group of 256 youth that have come together because we believe in marine protection. So I just gave a 10-minute speech about the work that the movement has done and how it's just a group of young, normal young people who want to make a change. So it was mind blowing, because from a young age, the UN has been. It's been in my mind,
vision.
on my vision board. I've always wanted to one day either work for the UN, speak at a UN conference, and that happened in December. So it was a massive thing.
I think we should also challenge Parliament. Is that maybe let me not put them under the bus. Since I have you here, I can ask you first. Do you get invited to Parliament, whether it's once a year or however many?
So we haven't, as a youth movement, we haven't actually physically gone to Parliament to address them, but we have had interactions with the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries. We've written letters to the Minister. We've had interactions with the department on many occasions, on the ground, in policy meetings. So first prize would be Parliament, because it would be nice to talk to them and tell all of them.
Say it properly.
Yeah.
You guys need to speak at Parliament.
We do.
That's where decisions are made.
That's where decisions are made, and they need to also see that there are young people that we are watching them. They were watching their every move, because government got on a global stage and said, we didn't ask them. They said they'll protect 10% by 2020. So this year we were just reminding them of the promise that they made, So yes, we need to address it.
When they made that promise?
They made that promise. Oh man, I might be wrong. It must have been in 2018.
Okay.
But I stand corrected. But they made that promise on a global stage. And all we were doing as a youth movement was just reminding them of a promise that they made, that we didn't force them to make. But we respected that they made that decision because it's what we need. And then when we saw they were not really making that decision, started to apply a bit of pressure.
Okay, I will, if it's a 2-year period, I know our government, but hey, it's still no excuse. Anyone that's the Minister of Environmental Affairs, or I'm not sure if
Barbara Creasy.
Yeah, Barbara Creasy. This is an important topic that would like for it to be prioritized in this country going forward, because whenever it comes to election time, we get told to vote.
Exactly.
And, obviously we live in different times than our parents. So obviously our mentality and our way of thinking and doing things is different. So we as the youth now would like to not only just tell me to vote for your party, but explain the policies that you plan to change and you plan to implement or you plan to improve. And let's sit down and have a dialogue with people such as you, especially in each field. If you are if a minister is running a department, I feel like it's good for them to meet with young people at least once a month, or if that's not possible, let's say once every quarter.
Exactly. At least.
And just discuss ideas, and also so that they can know what's happening on a global scale, not because you don't just focus here, you focus globally.
Exactly.
So that's where most of your ideas that you could have could be inspired from.
But also, even over and above that, there are careers. There are careers in this ocean space, and I know we think of the ocean and it's scary. It's like I don't want to. I can go to the beach.
Trust me, the ocean say ton very much. Ngoba nge 16 nge siyibona.
Yay,
Nange 25.
31, 1 Jan, 2 Jan.
Some of us, our year won't end so well.
No, it won't. It won't. Already last night I was seeing people say, hey, now I got to spend it with my parents. Already people we're freaking out. But there are careers in the ocean space. I can't stress this enough. Like, I have met amazing young Black people who are in the space, whether they're scientists. I've met cinematographers who are in the space, and that are making a massive change. And it's just, I also want people to know that you don't have to stick to one or what seems to be the greatest career. You don't have to just stick to that. If you find that it's not working, there's another side. Like, this is literally another world. Like, come to this side. Let's go on expeditions, on research cruises, and see animals, discover things, learn how to dive and swim together, and effectively make a change. There really is a lot of space for young people in this side.
You know what I like about what you're saying is that it's exactly what you've done. You went and studied law, which is what your parents would have liked you to do, way on board for you to do with your life.
Yeah.
And you went and did that. Now you have that in the bag. So any day you could say, okay, let me put this environmentalist side of me on hold and go attend this lawyer degree that I have in my bag. Because you have it. No one can take it away from you now.
Exactly. Or I can even just say to myself, actually, I want to be a policymaker. So let's just go and make laws about the environment. There's so many ways to look at this, and I really want young people to know that there is opportunity this side. Like, reach out to me. Like, I will tell you, there's like bursaries and just the door of opportunity. It's endless. And so I want people to know that there's another world this side, and it's a world where we've got leaders literally begging for young people to be more involved. They want young people to be decision makers and to be sitting around the table when these discussions are had. So I whoever's watching this or listening to it, please
really
reach out.
I understand. Most of our parents can't swim, so I understand why they don't want
they don't want to exactly
ocean stuff. That's for young people.
Exactly. But there's space. There's more than enough space this side.
Ruth, thank you for coming. I appreciate you. This was a beautiful chat. But I won't make you live without, blessing us with something from you. That's personally from Ruth. It doesn't have to be in line with everything that we just spoke about. This is just purely from you as a umuntu ophila emhlabeni.
Okay. We're about to get deep. We're about to get really deep. But one thing I've noticed this year is, COVID made us slow down a lot. But I feel that for us as young people, if there's one skill or one virtue, something that we need to learn as young people, it's what we call tact. TACT, which goes hand in hand with emotional intelligence. Trust me when I say that tact is the most, if not, it's actually one of, if not the most important skill you can have, because tact is a way for you to communicate with people. How do you communicate with them respectfully, understand people, talk to them? There's so many factors to it. And I'm telling you now, tact is what got me from my 23-year-old self all the way to my 28-year-old self now, being able to speak at such beautiful engagements. It's how you communicate with people. And I feel that sometimes as young people, we don't know how to communicate. Yes, we talk, but we don't communicate, we don't listen, we don't understand. And there's so much that we need to do. So if there's one thing I can just say to all the people watching and listening in 2021, just learn to have some tact, and I swear it will change your life.
Absolutely.
It's the cocaine of life.
You heard it yourself right here from herself, Ruth Mthembu. You can follow her. Oh, you can give them yourself. Like, I'll butcher your handles.
Oh, my handles. Okay. I always see people do this on TV.
Yeah.
Finally.
It's your moment.
It's my moment. So on Twitter, I am tweet at Ruthie. And on Instagram, I am is that Ruth. Or just look up Ruth Mthembu. It should come up. And then don't on Facebook. I'm not really that active on Facebook, but Twitter it's tweets at Ruthie, and then Instagram it's is that Ruth.
And if they want to get a hold of the organization that you're working with?
So if you want to get hold of the organization I'm with, it's Wild Oceans. But on social media, it's Wild Oceans SA across all platforms. So Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
So on that website, we can find more information about everything that we just spoke about.
Exactly. So if you want to find out more information, you can go to www.wildtrust.co.za. But if you want to learn about like the ocean and why we need it, what's the point of even protecting it, please visit oceanimpact.co.za. It's got everything you need to know.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to Ruth for joining us. Shout out to my little sister in the background, Bacha, for holding me down, making sure that the visuals stay in place.
Yes.
Otherwise, you can check out all our shows available on this channel. We've got the Checkup with Mthembu. That's more like news, politics-based type of stuff where he reviews stories that took place. He will tell you what's fake news and what's not and all those kind of things. It's dope with that. Check him out. Otherwise, you can also check out the Rugger Boys if you're a rugby fan. If not, you want to learn about rugby, you can also check it out. Otherwise, GNPS is still here, holding it down. You can check out all our previous episodes. But most importantly, subscribe, like, leave a comment. I mean, we just had a beautiful conversation, no Ruth here. So you can add your opinions and tell us what you think. Maybe there's something that we said that's wrong and you want to correct us. It's fine. We are people that like being corrected, especially if you're correcting us with facts, not just,
There we go.
Yeah. Otherwise, catch us next time. It's been real. Peace out.